This video is a continuation from the previous video. So we want to talk about the investment of time, and by time I mean your time, and the fact that as a design student, you are going to invest a lot of time. You're going to be expected to work for hours every day, multiple days on your assignments. These are not assignments that you're going to throw together in 5 minutes or an hour or 3 hours and get a good grade on. And I just want to make that very clear in the beginning. The less time you spend on your work, the less your grade, the lower your grade will be. And it's hard to explain to someone outside our profession how I, as someone who has decades of experience, can look at someone's work and say, they didn't spend much time on it. And it's mainly because I have been through the learning process and the practicing process and now the teaching side to be able to know whether or not someone invested a lot of time in their work. Faculty expect that you are going to make your studies a priority and invest a lot of time in your work. If you want A's, this is one of the main keys to getting them. The more work you put into your work, the more time you invest in your work, the higher the quality of your work will be most of the time. And I'm going to say most of the time because I can point to some really ugly buildings that people spent a lot of time on. They just didn't invest it well. But most of the time, the more time you put into your assignments, it is going to help drive your grades. It's not going to guarantee an A because a bad idea developed over days and weeks and months is still a bad idea. You still have to apply principles and elements of design. You still have to apply abstraction, originality, right? So we have all these things we need to apply, but time is huge. And it's one of the, I can tell you, someone who's now been teaching for a decade and a half, that one of the biggest hurdles I see students struggle with is going from the K-12 system where for the most part, you turn anything in and it's an A now, to where you're now actually being graded on a rubric here, where you're literally being graded on that rubric. The rubric is not symbolic of turn something in and you'll get a passing grade. Your work is truly evaluated for feedback. And one of the reasons I see students not score well on assignments is that they did not invest time in their assignments. Now, one of the things that will help you want to spend most of your time on your assignment being productive. And one of the important things to learn is organization. It's imperative. And I will tell you, as someone who is not naturally organized, I'll tell you the key to me getting organized was tools. I think I talk about this further on. And I'll talk more about it in a minute. This slide, I'm going to get to the point here. There's so much to tell you guys. Sometimes I find I start going rambling off and I just pull myself back in. There's so much to tell you, especially in the beginning when this is all new to you and we want you to be successful. And so we have so much that we want to share with you. But let's get back to what's on the slide and we'll move forward. This industry that you all have chosen is extremely deadline intensive. Everything you do will have deadlines, multiple deadlines. And you have to think in terms of deadlines because of this. Your deadlines are set because your client has deadlines. So if you miss your deadline, they miss their deadline. And I promise you it doesn't go well. In my 2 decades in industry, I can tell you that I have seen people fired for missing deadlines from their job. I have seen clients fire companies. I have seen them not pay for work that was done, a lot of work that was done. I have seen them sue. So, and then I've also seen people, like I've known people who were unreliable and just missed their deadlines, and then no one would work with them. And they literally got a reputation for being unreliable, and then they couldn't find work, and they were extremely talented. So talent alone is not enough. You have to understand that this is a service-based industry, that we do work for our clients, and their deadlines are time, money, reputation, other things. So when we miss our deadlines, we cost them time, money, reputation, other things I'm not thinking of. You're going to find out there is no late work accepted, and that is not because we're mean. It is because of how our brains work. If I say to you, okay, sure, I'll take this a week late, I have not taught you the value of meeting deadlines. If you get a 0 for attempting to submit it a week late, you very quickly learn, and your unconscious brain learns, this is important. And while it really does suck to get a 0 on an assignment, I promise you, you'd rather get a 0 on an assignment and learn from that now than to go out in industry and get fired. So I'm not doing my job if I tell you, oh, late work's no deal, no problem. Yeah, I make my life easier. I make my life a whole lot easier because, students sometimes try to submit late work and they get upset when I say no. And I will say no. This is going to be very clear up front. I will say no when you try to submit late work. The way to avoid missing your deadlines, though, is time management, which is what we're talking about here. Starting your assignment the minute you have access to it, asking questions, and investing your time. Okay? So my life would be easier if I just said, oh, turn it in whenever you want. But that's not honest. You are going to have deadlines in industry, therefore you're going to have deadlines in this program. I get to the next slide here. We'll move on. Okay, so some ways to be organized. Okay, so I'm telling you all this, and now I'm going to tell you some keys to success here. I'm not an organized person at all. Never have been. My husband and I will be having a conversation, and I'll start talking about something else, and he'll be like, "How did you go from this to this?" And I'm like, I'm an artist. That's why I'm creative, is because that's exactly what my brain does. It connects things that seem unconnected, and that's how a lot of artists are. Our brain goes different places. We're not organized sequentially. We're organized all over the place. And so we have to rely on aids and assistants to help us. And one of the keys to improvement, again, is practice. As somebody who's not naturally organized, is that if you do things, you acquire habits over time, your brain will begin to adjust and adapt. And I'm telling you this as somebody who has done it. I am no point ever asking you all to do anything that I have not done myself. Okay, so keep a calendar. You all as students have access to Outlook for free. Put your deadlines on it. You will have deadlines in Blackboard, but they're not on your personal calendar. Make sure you schedule them. Schedule dedicated time each day to work on your assignments. Schedule your class time and then hold to it. If you're not organized, let these tools organize you. Okay? Now, I understand sometimes we schedule things and then we're just not in the mood. I get that. But that can't always be your problem, because in this industry, you're going to have a job. You can't go, well, I'm not in the mood to work on that today. You can't do that. So we have to at least figure out ways to organize and structure ourselves so that we know these things are coming that we're going to work on. And then there's some more tricks as we go along. I'll help you about how to get motivated and how to overcome creative block. And I've experienced all of it, and faculty that are teaching this program have experienced all of this, and we'll give you tips for how to do it. You just have to practice. Okay. Another thing that will help with your calendar management is detailing everything. Keeping a notebook saying, this is how long it took me to do this. And that starts to attach value and time to the things that you did. I know it's not fun, Keep an Excel spreadsheet, write notes, but you really need to begin to quantify your time, because later on, what's going to be happen is you're going to be asked for estimates. And if you estimate that it's going to take you 10 hours to do something and it actually took you 30, you will have lost 20 hours of time that you could have gotten paid for it. So if you say to a client, okay, it's going to take me 10 hours to do this, and I'm charging you $20 an hour, $200, and they give you $200. Well, you've now lost $400 worth of your time. So that's one way to look at it from a business perspective. Just keep that calendar to keep track of your deadlines and your project progress. So we have phones, tablets, computers, right? Every apps. There's so many ways you can do this. Pick what works for you. Pick what you want to work with. Otherwise, it makes it harder. But pick something you like, something that's visually pleasing, and then just start doing it. In a beginning, anytime you do something new, and I'll tell you guys, I read books by neurobiologists in order to understand the human brain. And my husband's a biology professor, so I know quite a bit about how this works, despite not having a degree in it. I just read books by people who do and explain it to lay people. Your brain, when you're learning something new, is not happy about it. You have to invest energy, conscious, focused energy, until it becomes something that your unconscious brain gets and treats as a habit and a practice. And then you don't have to consciously think about it anymore, and it becomes easier. So there's two different ways of thinking. And the conscious thinking in the beginning that you do requires a lot of energy. And so people become resistant to it in the beginning. If something's doesn't come to them easy, they just walk away. Well, how are you ever going to learn anything new or grow if every time something requires energy, you don't do it? And it's no different than exercise, right? It's mental exercise versus physical exercise. People say, oh gosh, I'm so tired running. This is so hard, or climbing steps, or, riding a bike. I don't want to do it anymore. And then they don't. And I'm one of those people. But mentally, it works the same way. And so I know that you're going to get frustrated. And one of the things you want to do is find a way to get through that. And reminding yourself, this will get easier, this will get better the more I do it, does help. Another thing I also like to tell students is this. There's a pile of books at the end of the hall, and you've been tasked with moving those books to the other end of the hall. And you can't pick them all up. You don't have the means to move them. Let's say there are 1,000 books. How are you going to get those books from one end of the hall to the other? You're going to pick up what you can and move them a little bit at a time. And it takes time, and it's going to happen over time. But eventually, you will move those books. You will do it. And that's what you have to remember here. This is a lot. It's challenging, but you'll do it. You just do it one bite at a time. And so this just talks a little bit more about, learn to stick to your deadlines and don't miss any assignments, because it does really reflect your ability to meet expectations later on in your career. This is a very important habit to establish now, because it is one of the keys to your success later on. People are going to rely on you and trust you to meet your deadlines, to turn in your work. And so your assignments in this program represent your work in the real world. It's just here the consequences are not getting fired or not getting paid. It's failing a course. And I'm not saying that's not bad. Just you don't want to do either one. But you really want to look at the process as a student if you're not meeting those deadlines, because it does reflect in your career. Okay, I'm gonna have to stop here and continue in the next video.